What's going on, guys? Today I wanted to bring you another one of my 2014 WCQ H.A.T format deck profiles. The deck I want to show off today is Royal Magical Library Exodia FTK. A while back I had done a Dark World Exodia FTK deck profile, and a lot of people really enjoyed that, but at the same time they wanted a just basic standard build, and I would say for the most part in the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh! This was definitely the more common build of Exodia FTK that was around, and so I wanted to show you guys my build of it, and at the end of the video I'll also show you an example of how this deck actually functions and kind of play through it. But for the most part it is a very straightforward deck, and I would also say that much like any other FTK in the earlier days of Yu-Gi-Oh! And around H.A.T format, it's not the most consistent deck, but I would say that this build is definitely the more consistent of the FTKs that are available in H.A.T format, and that being said, it does struggle going second, so I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the top deck that you should be playing if you're expecting to win tournaments, but it can definitely steal some games, and it's a ton of fun if you enjoy just like kind of comboing with yourself in a sense. So without further ado, let's actually get into this deck profile, as I know a lot of people have wanted it. So starting off, we are obviously playing our 5 pieces of Exodia. The whole goal of the deck is to get to this as quickly as possible, because when you assemble all 5 pieces, you just auto win the game, so obviously you want to get to these as quickly as possible. Next up for the other monsters, we're playing 3 copies of Royal Magical Library. This is the kind of heart and soul of the deck outside of Exodia. A lot of builds for some reason will play 2 copies of this, but honestly I think that you would rather see it than not see it, and for that reason I am playing 3 copies. If you guys don't know what this card does, pretty much each time a spell card is activated, you place a spell counter on it at the maximum 3, and then you can remove 3 spell counters from it to draw a card, and that's not a once per turn, so if you can keep activating spells, then you're able to keep removing those counters and drawing cards, which is really important. Again, you want to see this as quickly as possible, and even if you draw the extra copies, they'll just be extra discard fodder for some of your other spell cards. And then next up, 3 copies of Thunder Dragon, this card being able to just discard it to add, the other 2 copies or up to the other 2 copies from deck to hand, so it's just a way to deck thin. It also gives you free discard fodder for some of the spells, similar to the Royal Magical Library, except obviously this one is more so for the discarding aspect than it is for actually wanting to see it. Next up, we play 3 copies of White Stone of Legend. This card is used just because some of your good draw spells are going to be trade-in, as well as cards of consonance. So if you see cards of consonance, you're able to discard a Dragon Tuner, being the White Stone of Legend, draw 2 cards, and then White Stone, because it was sent to the graveyard, allows you to add a copy of Blue Eyes White Dragon. So just a very good card. It's a way to kind of deck thin even more once you're already going through your deck. And to pair with that, I'm playing 2 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon. This is where my build is slightly different from some people's build, because for me, I'm only playing the 2 copies. A lot of builds will play 3 copies, but I wanted to kind of minimize the amount of bricks you're going to be seeing, because obviously you don't want to necessarily be seeing your monsters, you want to be seeing more spells than anything else. So with this ratio, pretty much because we're playing cards like Magical Mallet that we'll talk about in a little bit, even if you use the White Stone early on, which you'd rather see White Stone before you see the Blue Eyes, and you search a copy of Blue Eyes, you're able to use the Magical Mallet, put back your Blue Eyes, and therefore be able to research it again. And for that reason, we are only playing 2 copies of Blue Eyes. Now, you might think it's weird because we're playing 3 copies of Trade-In that you'll see in a minute, but to make sure we still have 3 level 8s for those 3 copies of Trade-In, we are as well playing 1 copy of Blue Eyes Toon Dragon. Obviously, this one isn't searchable with the White Stone, but it is searchable with Toon Table of Contents, Contents, which we are playing, so that just gives you another way to basically search out your copy of a level 8 monster to use with your trade-ins, and that is it for the monsters. Moving on to the rest of the deck, which is the rest is just spells. We play 3 copies of Upstart Goblin, obviously just being able to draw a card. 3 copies of Into the Void. This card says basically activate if you have 3 or more cards in your hand, draw a card, and then during the end phase you discard your hand. That is a pretty hefty downside, but if your whole goal is to be able to win on turn 1, then you probably are going to win before you even get to the downside of this, so it's just a way to kind of keep going through your deck. After that, 3 copies of Toon Table of Contents. Basically, you just activate this, add another Toon Tables, activate Toon Tables, add another Toon Tables, activate the last Toon Tables, add the copy of Blue Eyes Toon, and therefore you basically, if you have the Royal Magical Library on board, you get 1 additional free draw off of that, and say you see your copy of Blue Eyes Toon Dragon too early, again, you'll be able to pair it with your Magical Mallet to put it back, and at bare minimum, you'll then have 1 more search if you still have a Toon Tables in hand, so that is pretty good there. Next up, as I mentioned previously, the 3 copies of Trade-In, discard a level 8 monster, draw 2 cards, just an easy way to cycle through. The 3 copies of Cards of Consonance, discard a Dragon Tuner monster with 1,000 or less attack, being the Whitestone, and draw 2 cards, just more ways to really cycle through your deck. After that, 2 copies of Hand Destruction. A lot of builds will play 3 of this. What it does is each player sends 2 cards from their hand to the graveyard and draw 2 cards, and it's a quick play. While this is cool, and like I said, a lot of people will play 3 copies, I think this card tends to be a little more dead than anything else. Early on, if you see this, sometimes you have cards you don't really want to discard, especially if you're still haven't got to your trade-ins or your Cards of Consonance. A lot of times you'll just end up having cards you'd rather not get rid of. So I feel this card is a little better late game when you're going first, and in general it's really bad when going second, because in a format that's very trap heavy, a lot of times your opponent might just play a monster and then set 5 back row, and for this to be able to resolve, both players need to be able to meet the requirement of discarding 2 cards. So if your opponent plays out their whole hand and only have 1 card in hand, this is a dead card. So while I do think it's good, you don't want to have this card and too many copies of it when going second. Again, the deck does struggle going second, and so by minimizing this, it actually feels like I'm minimizing the amount of times I'll see a dead card, so that's why I like that. Next up, 2 copies of Dark World Dealings. This is a card that not that many decks for, the Exodia FTK plays, but I do find that at times this is really good since you do have your Thunder Dragons and you do have your White Stones and stuff. You have plenty of cards that you don't mind discarding once, you've kind of got the ball rolling, and this is one of those cards that also, if your opponent has no cards in hand, they can still, resolve this. They just draw the card and then discard it right away. So I feel that this card is more live than anything else. If you really want to, you can swap one of these out for a 1 Day of Peace, where both players draw a card and then neither player takes damage till the end of your opponent's next turn. But at the same time, the discard can be somewhat relevant if say you have a trade-in and multiple Whitestone of Legends in hand, and you need to get one into grave in order to get your trade-ins live. The discard actually can be a little relevant, and so that's why I do like this card. After that, 2 copies of Magical Mallet. This is another card that some people like to play at 3, but I think that I would much rather just play it at 2. It's one of those cards you want to see later in the turn, because if you activate it too early on, especially if you don't have your copy of Royal Magical Library, then it tends to be just a neg 1. So a lot of times you'd rather, kind of combo through, add your Thunder Dragons, add your Blue Eyes Toon Dragon, add your regular Blue Eyes, and then later in the game just shuffle them back to get real cards, as well as get counters on your Royal Magical Library when you do actually need it. And then the last two cards, we play one copy of Pot of Duality. One mistake I see with people is they fire this right away when they see it. I think you should always try to save this for as late in the game as possible, because it reveals 3 cards and then you get to add one of them. Obviously, we're not doing any special summoning in this deck or anything, so that downside is irrelevant, but usually you want to wait till your back is against the wall, and this is just the card that kind of gets you out of it, because you get a selection of cards to actually go and choose from. And then the last card is one copy of Wonder Wand. This is another card that a lot of people like to play multiple of, but realistically, because you're only summoning one monster, you only really need one of these, and so basically you equip to a spellcaster type monster, and if you control this and the spellcaster type monster, you send both to the graveyard and draw 2. So this is like kind of your last ditch effort. It somewhat helps you go second if your opponents say breakthrough skills your Royal Magical Library, but that's like honestly worst case scenario, and you'd rather, you know, just play for going first in a sense. Most decks want to play somewhat in a sense where you're hoping to win the die roll. As I mentioned, you know, this deck, it's cool, but it does still struggle going second, and I'll probably have to have a whole separate video talking about how you can actually side in this deck, because there's actually some cool things you can do, whether that be, for example, siding into a different FTK, since it is very similar to several other FTKs. There's also a way where you can side out Pot of Duality and some of the other cards and actually add some more combo pieces, which then you can start special summoning and doing some really cool plays with that. But you guys will have to let me know if you want to see a video just talking about the siding and stuff. This deck doesn't need an extra deck if you're playing it in this form. If I do make a video talking about siding and stuff like that, the extra deck might be a bit more relevant if you choose to go the route of the combo build of this, but you guys will have to let me know if you want to see that. But anyways, guys, let's move into the test hand and example. Alrighty, so let's shuffle this up and actually get started with this. Like I said, it is pretty straightforward, so hopefully we can, you know, right away get a good test hand for you guys. And just going to give it a good shuffle. I'll even power shuffle it here since it was all organized. It's really cool. We're really hoping to see, you know, probably ideally not that many Exodia pieces in the opener, and ideally getting to that Royal Magical Library as quickly as possible is the mainstay of this deck. So we will see how this actually goes. I'll try to speed this up just a little bit for you guys. And alrighty, let's just get that picked up a little, and we are ready to begin. So just a couple last quick shuffles here, and let's get this started. Let me move these dice out of the way. So we are going to start pretending we are going first. Here is the 5 cards, and then obviously, since this is hat format, we are still drawing for turn, and luckily we did, because here is that copy of Royal Magical Library. So I hopefully will have enough room here, but starting out your turn, we are obviously going to normal summon that copy of Royal Magical Library. From here, we will go and activate Upstart Goblin to draw a card, getting unfortunately another copy of Royal Magical Library, but it doesn't really matter here, as, you know, we do have the Dark World Dealing, so we can easily swap that for something else. Here, the Royal Magical Library does get a counter. After that, we'll activate the Into the Void, drawing another card, unfortunately a piece of Exodia. Again, it doesn't really matter too early on, as we do have lots of other ways to keep this going. Here, we'll activate the copy of Dark World Dealings, drawing into a copy of Upstart. Nice. And here we do need to discard a card, so we will discard the extra copy of Royal Magical Library, as it's not going to be any use to us. And here the Royal Magical Library will go to 3 counters, so we can remove this to draw a card. Here, getting a copy of Magical Mallet. Nice, very good draw there. Here we'll activate the Upstart Goblin and draw into a Thunder Dragon, and from here we can put 1 counter on the Royal Magical Library. After that, we can activate Thunder Dragon to discard and add 2 more copies of Thunder Dragon, which is exactly what we'll do here. Just kind of got to find them here. So getting 2 copies there, which now is really good because we do have the Magical Mallet as well as, we have the Hand Destruction if need be. And so from here, we have a couple options. We could use the Hand Destruction, or we can mallet back some of these. Here, I think I kind of want to wait, so I'm going to use the Hand Destruction here, activating this. So we will draw 2. And from here, we will discard both copies of Thunder Dragon. And the Royal Magical Library goes to 2 counters. From here, we can activate this copy of Into the Void, drawing a card, getting a copy of Whitestone, okay. And then this will go to 3 counters, wherever it is. Here's the 3, which we can remove and draw yet again. Here, getting another copy of Hand Destruction. Now from here, looking at this hand, it's nothing too crazy, honestly. We do have the trade-in, but unfortunately we have the Whitestone. We don't really have a great way to get the Whitestone into grave. We could use the Hand Destruction, but it feels like most of this hand isn't really where we want it to be. So in this case, I am going to use the Magical Mallet here, and I'm just going to shuffle everything back. Since we do have 5 cards, we are likely to see enough spells to be able to get into our next Royal Magical Library activation. We do still have things like the Toon Table of Contents in deck. We still have access to all the trade-ins and stuff like that, even the Cards of Consonance, for example. So just shuffling everything back here, give it a couple extra cuts so you guys know it is randomized. And here we will redraw 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So not the super ideal thing, and here we are going to get 1 counter, but we still can make this work, because here we can go Cards of Consonance, discarding the Whitestone and drawing 2 cards, and from here the Whitestone will trigger, so we get to add a copy of Blue Eyes, which we will add here. And so luckily, even, without that activation, we do still have access to this trade-in. And because we activated the Cards of Consonance, this will go to 2, meaning when we do activate this copy of trade-in and draw 2 cards, getting another Magical Mallet is really good here. This will now go to 3 counters, which we can remove and get an additional free draw here. Getting the Duality, again, this is our saver card that really whenever we get in a tough spot we can use. Now looking at this, we do have a lot of monsters, so we are going to actually go and use this second copy of Mallet. Again, putting back 5 cards and keeping the Duality, because even if we draw a lot of monsters, it will get us out of any situation we have here. So, gonna give it a good shuffle here, and we will draw 5 cards, and make sure you don't forget about the Royal Magical Library, giving it its counter. I'm always do it on the resolution, because that's technically when you should be getting it here. So here we are going to draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will get the counter, and from here we're actually in a really good spot because we did see the Toon Tables. So what we can do is activate Toon Tables and grab ourselves that other copy of Toon Tables. This will go to 2 counters here, and from there we can activate the second copy of Toon Tables to add the third copy of Toon Tables, at which point this will go to 3 counters. And here you kind of have an interesting scenario, because you can activate this and search the Blue Eyes, but you'll lose the counter here, or you can draw and hope you don't see the Blue Eyes Toon here, which we will take that risk, and we do get a piece of Exodia. So here we can now go and activate that third Toon Tables to add our copy of Blue Eyes Toon Dragon, and from there we do get 1 counter. After that, this is our hand. It is getting very sizable. Obviously, we have 2 pieces of Exodia, and we have these here. Looking at our graveyard, right now we have just the 1 Blue Eyes, I believe. And yeah, so there's still 1 regular Blue Eyes in the deck. So here we can take the risk of going for Dark World Dealings, drawing a card, which unfortunately we did get the blue eyes. So, you know, having this white stone, we were planning to discard this to add this. But what we can do here is actually just get rid of the blue eyes we just drew. This will go to 2 counters. And the reason we get rid of the blue eyes here is because looking at this one, we already have a level 8 if we draw into a trade-in. But the other thing is looking at our graveyard, there's 1 cards of consonants. And that is it. So we still want to make sure we have this in case we draw a cards of consonants. And at this point, what we can do is we can either go for duality or go for hand destruction. Hand destruction, we're going to draw 2, but more than likely we'll end up discarding these. So here, I think, is a good opportunity to go and actually activate this copy of duality, because if we see a trade-in, we have access to, you know, being able to use it. Or if we see the copy of cards of consonants, we can actually get rid of it. So there's just more value in activating this here. So we will activate it, revealing 3. Upstart and Whitestone. So unfortunately here isn't the greatest of draws, but we will take the Upstart because this will get us more counters. So we will put those back, shuffle it up, and on the resolution of that, the Royal Magical Library will go and get its 3rd counter, which we can then remove and draw an additional card, getting a copy of Into the Void. So that's very good because now it means we have basically 1 more free draw off the Royal Magical Library, as well as just digging deeper into the deck. So we'll activate the Into the Void, drawing into a Royal Magical Library. A little unfortunate there, but here we will get our 1 counter. Next, we'll activate Upstart, drawing a copy of Trade-In. Very good for this. This will go to 2 counters. Here we can activate that copy of Trade-In, getting rid of the Blue Eyes Toon Dragon, drawing 2 more cards. All right, and this goes to 3 counters, which we can remove and draw another card. So here we have 3 pieces of Exodia and still plenty of ways to keep drawing. So from here, we are going to activate the copy of Wonder Wand. I'll just put this under here, and it will get its 1 counter. After that, the only option we have, really, we don't want to get rid of the copy of Royal Magical Library yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go for this copy of Hand Destruction. So we will draw 2. 1, 2. Discard the Royal Magical Library and 1 of the white stones. And this will go to 2 counters here. So we'll be able to go and activate this, pitching these 2 to draw 2. And we did get the other pieces of Exodia here, so we don't have to worry about counters. Worst case scenario, if we didn't have the cards of consonants there, we could always just use this, tribute it off, and draw 2 more. But here we do see that we did draw into the 5 pieces of Exodia, and therefore we did win the game. Hopefully this was a good example for you guys. I know I'm a little crowded on space here, so hopefully you could see all of that very well. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it, comment any questions or videos you want to see in the future, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified anytime I put a new video out, share this video with your friends, and again, if you guys are interested in some cool ways you can side in this deck, or just if you want to see any other FTKs in the future, definitely let me know in the comment section, and anyways guys, I will see you in the next video.